Grow well, eat well, live well, right here in BIM.
Hi everyone, I'm Joel Ford and welcome to a brand new season of G.E.L in Agriculture, where we tell you everything that's happening in the agricultural sector right here in Barbados. In October, we celebrated World Food Day with a display of agricultural excellence and culinary skill. Charleston Lucas, the Deputy Chief Agricultural Officer at the Ministry of Agriculture, is the chairman of that World Food Day committee. He says the week of activities was a success.
Generally, activities went very well. We started on Friday, October the 14th at Graham Hall. We had a farmer's mart and a culinary exhibition. In that, on that Friday, we wanted to look at foods that Barbadians use, but we wanted to put a little twist on it. We wanted to stop them from being too much fat, too much salt, and therefore we partnered with the BH Barbados Tourism, Hotel and Tourism Organization, and they kindly consented to allow us to chefs and the mixologists, and therefore we showed persons attending that there how they could make the food just as nutritious, and also the drinks, the local drinks, they could be just as nutritious and stop using a lot of fats in terms of the drinks, a lot of sugars and whatnot. So in actual fact, we wanted to go back over the 50 years since we were also celebrating our 50th year anniversary of independence, and put a little twist on the normal food that we know, the macaroni pie and the stew with a lot of fat around everything. So we wanted to go over and show them that the food could still be nutritious, but you can use a rare local ingredients just to enhance it. So we also had farmers at Graham Hall on that day, and where they were selling the local produce and vegetables, and also some of the value-added products. Some people made, different products with the local produce that were just nutritious. Somebody even made banana cake and using green bananas and that sort of thing. So we actually showed them what can be done with the local produce. We had local produce on sale and local value-added products on sale. So in all, they got the benefit of using local dishes and still having a nutritious diet.
But there was also an educational component, a hike through the Scotland district, a visit to the Met Office, and a climate change symposium. And speaking of climate change, today on G.E.L in Agriculture, we're examining one commodity that's even more precious than gold, and we've surely seen this year how important it is to all of us. That's water. Yes, water is precious, especially for those of you with your own farm or even backyard garden, and we don't want you to waste one single drop. That's why we called in our expert Colin Wiltshire from the Ministry of Agriculture, who spoke to Denise Blackman about water conservation.
Water conservation basically is using techniques to reduce the level of water that will be used, and as much as possible save some of it, particularly in the rainy season, to be used in the dry periods when it's not available so easily.
Why is that water conservation so important for farmers?
Water conservation is very important for farmers, especially small farmers, because over the past 4 or 5 years we have experienced what is called a El Nino episode. It has persisted for as long as about 4 years. We have been recording reduced levels of rainfall. I think last year we had as little as about 34 inches of rain last year, which is well below the national average. And many farmers suffered as a result of the reduction in rain. Some guys lost animals, some guys lost crops, and so on. So it is therefore very, very, very important, as much as possible, to reduce the level of water that is being used on the farm, as well as save, conserve, store some of it for a droughty type of period.
So no matter how little water you have, you should always be able to use it effectively.
Of course, of course, of course.
I understand,
yes.
I heard the ministry, you have some examples of how we can do just that. What are some of the examples of water conservation?
Okay, there are so many examples of water conservation. Denise, I will go over some of them with you because it is probably very difficult to go over all of them. You are standing on a water conservation technique right now, the black fabric mulch on the ground. Basically what it does is it suppresses weed development as well as retain soil moisture.
So I see some holes in the mulch here.
Yes.
How does that work?
Okay, the holes are strategically placed along the drip lanes. If you look carefully at the mulch, you will realize that there are irrigation lanes like this one here, just below the mulch. So normally what we do is when we are planting crops under the mulch, we would cut a hole into the mulch and plant the plant close to the irrigation lane, the drip irrigation lane. And again, obviously, I mean, drip irrigation is a phenomenal technique to conserve water because drip uses within the region of like 10% of the water that an overhead sprinkler would normally use.
So a great difference in water.
Significant
Not less
and
water
huge
use.
difference, yes.
So we have the mulch, we have the greenhouse that we're currently in as well.
Of course, yes, greenhouses again conserve a significant amount of water. If you look up, you'll realize that the roof of the greenhouse is covered with a 50% shade net. So it blocks some of the incident light, some of the sunlight from coming into the building. So that in of itself reduces the evaporative losses. And greenhouses generally provide a lush type of environment where the plants tend to thrive. As you can see, the tomatoes here, these are only about 5 weeks old and it is already above the height of my waist. And the taller the plants get, they generally produce more fruit. So you'll find that as it grows upward, as it grows in a vertical direction, the yields tend to improve and you tend to get a lot more tomatoes than if it was a shorter tomato, probably growing under open field conditions.
Grow well, eat well, live well, right here in Bend.
Less water, better crops, and more money in your pocket sounds good to me. Now, if you don't have the fabricated corn husk mulch or this plastic type mulch that the Ministry of Agriculture uses, Colin says you can simply use sour grass, guinea grass, or elephant grass. Basically, anything that would not grow if you were to place it on the soil. And they also discuss the benefits of the smart pump.
The smart pump is quite similar to another pump. It's an electrical pump. But the main difference with the smart pump is that we have installed a number of sensors that basically turn the pump on and turn the pump off at the stage where the plants need water. So rather than over irrigating or a person having to manually be physically at the site to switch the pump on and off, it is all automated. So basically when the sensors send a signal that the pump needs to come on, it will come on.
And what type of people do you usually see employing pumps like this?
In agriculture, there are a number of farmers who use this technology because the cost of water is constantly increasing and it's actually cheaper to invest into a piece of equipment which will save you over a period of time hundreds and probably thousands of dollars. And also households and so on, some people at home with gardens who they might not have a gardener at home every day to irrigate the lawns or irrigate the flowers, so they will use technology that could basically do the work of a person.
4 huge water tanks that you have here. Tell us what you do with these. How do you employ them here at the Ministry of Agriculture?
Basically, these are water storage tanks and we fill them with water that is channeled from the roof of the building over there. It basically comes along through an underground pipe and it fills the tanks. And we use the water to irrigate the greenhouses. Predominantly when outside it's really dry and so on, and they tend to come in very, very handy. Basically, the smart pump is connected to the water storage tanks. And when there is a need for the plants to be irrigated, the smart pump sends a signal to the tank to send water to irrigate the plants.
And only the amount that these plants need.
Only the amount that the plants need. So there will be zero wastage, will be most efficient use of water. Yes.
How small a scale can this system be set up in, let's say, a backyard environment?
Well, basically, as long as a person has a house and it has gutters and so on, you would connect the gutters to the tank, and when it rains, it will fill the tank. Some people will also fill it with BWA tap water, but I think using rainwater is best because it has less chemicals, there's no chlorine, and obviously it's free, so it cuts the cost down significantly.
Mulch, greenhouses, smart pumps, and tanks. Colin says all are invaluable to the Bajan farmer or gardener. And if you're still not digging any of these options, maybe you should think about which crops you choose to grow.
If we look at the other greenhouse out there, there are Chinese cabbage and lettuce in there. So their water requirement is higher than say crops like, if we look into the field, we see bananas and cassavas and so on. So I sometimes make recommendations to farmers to cultivate crops which are more drought tolerant and have a lower water requirement, especially coming into the dry season. Bananas and figs and the most species, they basically stand up better to droughty type conditions. And also the Ministry of Agriculture, if you look in the distance, we have embarked on a project to bring new cultivars of cassavas into Barbados, which are very, very drought tolerant. And we are also looking to bring in some new cultivars of sweet potatoes and other crops which can basically stand up to the changing rainfall patterns.
And for you lovers of cassavas, yams, eddos, and all those other root crops, here's something delicious for you. Take a look at Carmita's cassava fish cakes, made using Carmita's fine cassava flour, of course available at Carmita's on the Harbor Road. This recipe brought to you by the Barbados Agricultural Development and Marketing Corporation. What an excellent way to start the weekend or end the week. So there you have it, folks. This week we shared with you water conservation methods for small, large, or medium-sized farms. Now, if you utilize any of these methods, let us know. Send us some pictures on our Facebook page, G.E.L in Agriculture. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Grow well, eat well, live well.